who are we to take another life? And that's really the question that I pose in Another Mother's Son. I've been a musician really since I was a child. I had the good fortune of growing up surrounded by music, and so we just always had the ability to have access to music in our home and access to instruments. I started playing the piano when I was about 7, and quickly realized that I loved rock and roll more than I loved playing the piano. So I, of course, had to get myself a guitar and try to emulate my heroes like John Lennon and Keith Richards and the Rolling Stones. So it's been a lifelong pursuit for me. I discovered songwriting as a passion of mine. I would say, really from my teenage years. I had the good fortune of making some great friends in high school and in college who were very, very as passionate as I was about making music. And while we played a lot of cover songs, we also integrated some original music into our sets. And I was always the antagonist, wanting to write more songs and play more original music. My musical collaborations, there have been several, especially again as I was a younger musician, often with my close friends, bandmates. But as a collaborator of other musicians, that's something that I've always been drawn to. And most recently on my debut album that I released in 2020, I had the privilege of collaborating with probably 15 or 16 different musicians on the 10 tracks that are on that album. So that was to me such a great joy. So when I set out to first write a song, I know the majority of times I will often start with the melody. I could be sitting playing with my guitar or sitting at the piano, and a melody will just simply come to me. My process at that point, then I'll try and capture it. I always carry my phone with me, and it has a great little voice memo application that I take great advantage of, and jotting down ideas, whether it's a musical idea, a lyrical idea. That'll usually be the seed, that recording, jotting down that idea, to from then which I will start to build and create a song around. Another Mother's Son was inspired by a newspaper article that I read. This article in the New York Times, that headline immediately caught my eye. I saw an execution. It just impacted me at a very visceral level, just the headline alone. I'm just immediately putting myself in the position of watching the execution of someone else, of another human being. And I immediately poured myself into the article written by Elizabeth Brunig. She wrote this account of a number of what I will say are hastily ordered executions. I was immediately drawn into the story and wanted to understand more about the people who our country, our citizenry, was endorsing that we execute. And Elizabeth Brunig told a very compelling story about 2 of those individuals who were executed in the month of December. And the story in the article that really drew me in was the profile of Brandon Bernard. He had been an inmate on death row for the last 20 years in Terre Haute, Indiana, at a federal penitentiary there. And at the age of 18, he was convicted of a murder, which, while it's undeniable a murder occurred that day, what is certainly clear in the facts that came out both during as well as after his prosecution was that he was not directly responsible for the death of the 2 people who were murdered that day. And so make no mistake about it, it was a horrible, horrible event that took place. But he was a contributor, not the direct executor of those 2 individuals who lost their life that day.
Like the night when the carjack turned ugly, he was told to torch the car. While he didn't pull the trigger, he was fingered at the seam, sentenced to death at the age of 18.
He was a role model in the penitentiary system. He was a mentor to other prisoners, and unfortunately, however, none of those attributes were able to save him in the end. He was executed on December 10th, 2020, and that story just resonated with me from the standpoint that I just oppose capital punishment on moral grounds. I have to hold ourselves accountable as a society, as a citizenry. How do we stand as both judge, jury, and executioner as a society and justify the taking of another life, even under these horrendous circumstances? And so that's what I tried to capture in myself.